Okay, the Board of Supervisors Budget Workshop is back in session, and we're going to continue by groupings. I believe the next series of departments is the Internal Service Department. Ms. Wyatt.
Yes, thank you. Basically, the internal service departments are comprised of the county executive office, the auditor controller, treasurer, tax collector, county council, human resources, general services, buildings and grounds, county garage, capital improvement, building maintenance, capital projects, promotion, economic development, information services, and the IT reserve finance system. The total for internal support departments last year at adopted was $9,380,074. This year is $9,371,932. A decrease, a slight decrease. I have listed by department in the comments, and if the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions of the board for internal service departments? Hearing none.
Okay, this is going to go quick. Human Services is the next grouping. This is primarily the Health and Human Services Agency budgets. It is the Health and Human Services Agency budgets. The total amount for the adopted budget last year was $7.7 million, just going to round that off. This year is down $6.0 million. There has been some decreases in restructuring and putting together and consolidating some budgets this year. And if the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
To the board. Any discussion on human services departments? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, Supervisor Colfax.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I'm trying to find animal control. Here it is. I've had a number of concerns being expressed about animal control, and particularly what's happening on the coast. Could we get a little more information about that item here, the cutback of, looks like, well, however you want to calculate it.
19,000.
That's 2860.
Yes. The net county cost for animal control this year is $540,959. The CEO is making a recommendation to use a portion of designated reserve, which was available to help offset the shortfall that was submitted at the budget. As well, we are also anticipating that there be a process going out for RFP to form a shelter 2 over on the coast. And that would, the RFP would go out on July 1st. That was a savings in looking at if we did this, and this recommendation of $130,000. The designated reserve that's being utilized was $54,763. Any more detail that you would like to have? Maybe Mr. Mitchell would like to respond to that?
I think the most important thing I hear from people is they want reassurance that the shelter is going to remain open, and it is our commitment that the shelter remain open. We're just looking at a different structuring arrangement for how we're going to staff that facility.
Yeah, and Chair?
Please.
And in terms of the spay and neuter program, again, not to get into too many details of the programs, but I've gotten reports that that program may be suffering under this particular budget.
Carmel, would you mind answering that? I don't believe so, but
No.
let's get clarification from Carmel.
Good afternoon. I'm Carmel Angelo, Director for the Health and Human Services Agency. Chairman Wattenberger, Supervisor Colfax, there are no reductions to the spay and neuter program in animal control. That will remain intact. Any other questions for me?
Supervisor Pinches, I believe, was next.
Carmel, under the mental health budget unit 4050, not the Mental Health Services Act, but just the regular mental health budget, would you explain this? It says, see above budget unit salaries and new programs, mental health contribution. Explain that a little bit, what's happening in that budget unit.
Supervisor Pinches, if you would allow me, since I'm the
Yeah,
one that put it
okay.
together out there, and then Carmel can add on to it. That is $288,926 was what I referenced back up at the top, where mental health services are being provided to the jail, and that is the general fund, basically contribution that we're giving from the general fund to provide these services, to help offset the cost that provides the services for the jail.
Yeah, so that money is not coming out of the mental health budget, it's coming out of the general fund.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Carmel, the mental health deficit, where are we at on that? Or where are we going to be at the end of the, what's projected to be at the end of this, at
Okay.
the 08, 09?
For this existing year, we had a projected deficit of $2.5 million. So clearly, last year, we know the deficit was 1.2. With our projections of doing business the same, it was $2.5 million. Most of that was in labor costs. We were able to reduce the labor costs by $1.8 million, and that was truly by keeping vacancies and restructuring as we could. So as of today, the existing deficit for this year for mental health is approximately $500,000. That deficit is not in labor costs. We committed to reducing the labor costs. We were able to do that without reducing services. That deficit is due to out-of-county placement costs that are approximately $350,000, and as of today, it could be more than that. By a few thousand. And then also the interest that we pay to the county, which is very similar to this figure. It's somewhere around $250,000. And that's the interest we pay because the county floats us as the state pays us late. So that's the deficit that we have. It's approximately $500,000.
Which is a significant decrease
Absolutely.
over the last 2 years.
Right, and considering we were projecting over $2 million and we're at between $500,000 and $600,000, we're going in the right direction, and we're hoping with the ongoing integration and trying to keep mental health clients in the county and bring them home quicker, we'll reduce those out-of-county placement costs as well.
Okay. Sure.
And then, of course, if the auditor will forgive us our debt again this year, we'll be in good shape. Thank you.
Supervisor Smith.
Thank you. So to Ms. Wyatt, for the animal care and control budget, if you could give us a little more detail. I mean, the concern I have is that we're talking about a contract out savings of $130,000. And I think that previous explorations in terms of these services being absorbed on the coast with existing animal welfare agencies have not proved to be successful. I mean, there have been forays into this topic before and it hasn't worked. So my concern is when you're talking about, you've already made the assumption in the budget projection